Hello, hello, and welcome to the Color Whisperer Show, where we talk about all things home and healing. And okay, for some of you who've been watching the podcast for a while, look at the light in here today. I swear to you, I haven't done anything different. Okay, I did add another light over there. You can see it on the picture as lighting up the back wall. But I've been doing that for weeks now, and it hasn't made any difference. Now, what I have done is I did some very interesting energy clearing. So I had to sage the house. And as I was saging the house, I kept finding these like little pockets of negativity. I'm like, what is this? It was something very weird that I've never experienced before. It was almost like, I don't even know how to describe it. But anyway, so I got rid of them. And there was like four of them in my office with these little like pockets of it was weird. It was weird, very weird. Anyway, I've come across a lot of weird stuff. For me to say it's weird, it was weird. But I cleared it, and look at, you can see me. This like, it doesn't look like it's all dark and everything's crazy in the back. So, yay, very excited about that. So, it is June. It is June. It is the end of June, and we are well into summer. It's hot. It's so hot here. We're in the 90s all week. And, I know it on the other side of the country, you get in the 90s and you get the humidity, which is even worse. So we're all dealing with the heat. But you know what? I think that we complain too much about the weather. Like, it's never going to be just like a perfect, well, and everybody's got their different perfect, right? Like, our friend, her perfect is 68. I have another friend, her perfect 74. My perfect's about 80. Then you talk to guys. Well, their perfect's like 68, 62. I went to a conference one time. It was so funny. It wasn't funny, but it was funny. Anyway, we're freezing. This guy's this big Italian dude, right? And guys tend to have better, yeah, they're like heaters, right? They seem to be able to handle cold way better than us women. I think that's God's little trick to have us make up at the end of the day. I tell you, it certainly solved a lot of problems in my marriage. I want to be warm tonight. Okay. I don't care what you did today. Just curl up and hold me. Keep me warm. Anyway, so this guy's this big burly dude, and he's from back east, and it's California, man. I'm like, we don't have snow. Like, that's a foreign concept. This whole below zero thing, like, cannot compute. It's like the little cartoon. My head is exploding. And he had the room, they always say, oh, you have to keep the room cold to keep people awake. Well, it kind of doesn't work that way for me at a certain point. All I can think about is I'm freezing, and I don't really care what they're saying. But for him to be comfortable in his sport jacket, and he might have even had a sweater on, which he was dressed for the cold. Uh, it was like 60 degrees in there. Everybody was complaining about how cold it was. And I went to another event of his, and then he started selling blankets. He was selling $100 blankets. They were nice, thick blankets, had his logo on them. That was what the $100 was. But it was also, you're freezing now. People didn't think about, they're going dressed up and they want to be pretty and look professional. I'm not thinking about, I got to dress for being at the North Pole, especially in the summer in LA. You're not going to think about being dressed for the North Pole. Anyway, I digress. I digressed a lot. So it is summertime, and I think we need to just enjoy like the weather for what it is. There's something wonderful about each season. And yeah, it gets hot, and yeah, it gets cold, and yes, I will probably complain about cold. But we need to focus on really enjoying what each season has. I know when I don't get to go outside very much, I miss that. I was like, oh, wait, what happened to the season? And summer's here. You've got lots of outdoor concerts and the free ones by the city. All the bands are, got a lot of bands touring. It's time for fun. What's the song? It's summertime. I'm not going to sing. It's summertime and the living's easy. Well, I don't know if it's easy necessarily, but it can be fun. So, we're going to talk today about outdoor rooms. So, let's go outside. Okay, yeah, George Michael's going off in my head. I can't help it. I can't help it. But let's go outside. We're not going to talk about that kind of outside. We're going to talk about outside, and how to get the most for your outdoor space. So, one of the easiest things you can do to add real estate to your home is to create an outdoor room. Now, this can be as simple as a $30 blow up pool and maybe a $40 lounge chair and your favorite beverage, and maybe you have a what are they called? What are they called? The little speakers. I don't use it because I haven't figured out how to use the dang thing. It's this little Bluetooth thing you can put the radio on and it goes out and you put the speaker out there. So I had one and I don't know. I needed a teenager. I don't have one. I didn't figure it out. Whatever. I got my phone. I just put my tunes on my phone. It's all good. So, have your speaker, and it can be something as simple as that to enjoy what summer has to offer. It can also be, let's really revamp the yard. Maybe it's a dry creek. Maybe it's a new pool. Maybe it's an outdoor kitchen. Maybe it's an outdoor living room. There's so many ways we can go outside and enjoy this beautiful season. I go to the Pasadena Showcase House every year. Now, they're all around the country. There's one probably near you, or at least in a big city near you. And I've seen some really, really cool ideas over the years. And there's always some kind of patio scene. One of my favorites was so beautiful. It was actually more of a patio. So 3 sides of this, I'm going to call it living space for right now, was the house. The longest side went into the living room. One of the short sides went into the master bedroom or the primary bedroom. And the other side went into like the breakfast room, going into the kitchen area. And it was this big, long space. And it did have a roof over it. There was a second floor, and there were bedrooms up there. But the 4th wall of this was totally open. And it was wonderful because you could enjoy it year-round. There were heaters. There was this big, beautiful fireplace that was on the 4th wall that would be open. They had a nice little conversation area. They had a little dining table. There was a TV. There was a cool sound system. And lots of earthy elements to know that you were part of outside. And yet there was protection. So you could put nice furniture out there. I was on a call today and it was really funny. There were people from the East Coast and people from the West Coast. And we're like, yeah, we just leave our patio furniture out till it gets destroyed and then we go buy some new ones. But back east, well, they have to pack up the patio furniture and put it away because of snow and da da da. It's like, yeah, it's a whole different world. Whole different world. Anyway, so in a case, if you live in a space like that where, there's lots of elements, you could still enjoy this because I don't know if I'd want to be out there in the snow. That'd be really cold. But you could still enjoy this space during, at least in LA, which it was in LA, it was in Pasadena. So during the winter, you could still enjoy the space. It had heaters and you could go out there and it would still be nice. And there was a big fan too. So even in the heat of the day, when we get up to like 104, you could be out there if you wanted to and have the fan going and you were in the shade. So it was really nice. There was another similar type when I saw, and they had this mesh screen that came down. And it was a really strong mesh. So it wasn't like fishnet leggings or anything like that. It was like 1-inch straps all woven together. And there's a little space between. So maybe there was an inch and a half space between the straps. So basically, it would lower, and the mesh was close enough that critters wouldn't come in. We did get a lot of critters. I had no idea I was moving to the woods when I moved here. We have raccoons, we have possums, we have skunks. We have bears in our city. I don't live low enough for the bears to come, but we have bears. And it's not that far you have to go to get to the bears. So somebody who lives a little further up the hill than I do, this would be really a nice thing to have because you don't want the bears go in pools. That's the biggest thing you see is the bears going in the pool. It's hot for them too, and they cool off. And I know I have a pond, and the raccoons go in there. They love it. They just love it. During the summer, I hear at 3 o'clock in the morning, splash, 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 splash. It's the raccoons. So, oh, sorry. So it was really cool. Now here in Pasadena was built as a resort town. If you've seen our Rose Parade, then the Rose Parade was started as an advertisement to get people from back east to come here. Because here we are, it's January 1st, and there's roses in bloom. What? And, it's cold, but there's no snow on the ground and stuff like that. I mean, it's a lot warmer here than it is for many of you across the country. And that was their big selling point. Hey, come see our Rose Parade. And back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, there's a lot of lung issues. And so people would come here to get clean air, fresh air. That's a joke now, right? So much smog, it's not funny. But back then, that's what they did. And so being this resort area, it was really about taking in nature in order to heal. Okay, I got way off track. Pasadena. So yes, I was talking about bears. So if you're up further in the hills, there's bears. And we have, okay, I'm sorry. Way off track. See, this is what happens when I don't have a script. Okay, I never have a script. We just got off a bit. Okay, Pasadena. I found myself. It's okay, Mark. We're good. So we're talking about sleeping porches. So here when Pasadena was coming in, it was resort area, and we build these big houses. This is before air conditioning, right? Now, one of the things that we have that's very nice is around 4 o'clock we get this wonderful breeze that comes up. And it might be sweltering hot during the day, but around 4 o'clock we start getting an ocean breeze coming in, and it cools off a house. So the houses that were built during this time were all built to take advantage of that wind coming in. And one of the things they did too, and is very much part of craftsman architecture, so it's not just Pasadena, it's around the country, around the world, is they had sleeping porches. And what's a sleeping porch? It's exactly what it says. It's a porch you would sleep on because it's too bloody hot in the house. And so it would be a wall that's about halfway, maybe 3 feet high, and then the rest of the room would be screen. And there'd be a bed in there, depending on the size. There'd be maybe a chair, maybe a little table. So it was an addition to your space. Usually it was attached to a bedroom. And the idea was that during the summer months, it's too hot to be in the house, you had a relatively safe place. There was no bugs. There was no, you don't get a ton of bugs, but there's no bugs, no critters were going to come in there, and you would be able to take advantage of that breeze and cool off at night. So I thought that this mesh thing was really neat because it also made that whole room a sleeping porch if people wanted it. Long way to get to there. Oh, goodness. You know, back in college, I went to Ireland and I kissed the Blarney Stone, and I guess it's showing up today. I do tell a good story. Actually, I was in creative writing when I was in college, and I don't know how I found this, why I found this, but I found one of the stories I wrote way back then, and I read it, and I was like, you know, it's not a bad story. It's actually pretty good.
I had an idea. I was wondering what the story would be if you were telling the story of the raccoon in the swimming pool. Because as you were talking about the raccoon in the swimming pool, I was like, that could be an interesting story as to what the raccoons were doing when they were in your swimming pool. Because apparently they just discovered the swimming pool and decided that it was a good pool for them. So I was actually thinking of the story from the raccoon's point of view. So maybe you can do a story right now about the raccoons and what they are doing in their own mindset. Because I'm thinking like they just happened to walk into the neighborhood and then they said, "Hey, that looks like a swimming pool. I think that we should go and frolic in this lady's swimming pool. We don't know who she is, but she seems like she's nice, and so we should just join the swimming pool. And we'll try to be as nice and neat as possible. We don't want to mess up the swimming pool because then the lady might not let us come back."
No, they were not nice and neat as possible, let me tell you. No, the raccoons have been, oh my gosh. So they first moved in, they lived in a tree next door. And I don't know how they got in the tree because the tree was really tall. And I swear to you, the first summer we lived here, I look out. Actually, it wasn't even the first summer, but we moved here in November, and the first time I saw them, I was amazed. I swear to you, they were as big as me. I'm 5 foot tall. They were as big as me. Now, for a human, I'm rather short, but as a raccoon, that's huge. And there was a whole family of them. There was mommy and daddy, and we had a few babies. And they would come into the yard and do their thing. And when summer came, it's hot. It's hot.
Yeah.
You know, they're up in a tree, so they're getting some shade, but it's still hot. And then we had goldfish, so we had food for them. So it was cool and it was food. So that was the attraction. And
Mhm.
one night I hear this splash, 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 splash. I wake up like, what is going on out there? I look, and the whole family. Now, mind you, it's a small little pond. It's like 6 foot by 4 foot. Okay, and
Right.
it's not straight. It's got all these curves. It's not. It's not a big pond.
Mhm.
and they're all sitting there splashing around. There were several times I'd get up in the morning, half the pond would be empty. I'd have to refill it. They would steal the hoses from there's a pump and a fountain. And so they would steal the hose that went from the pump to the fountain. They'd take out there's a mesh thing that filters the water. They take that out regularly, and sometimes they bring it back, sometimes they don't. They've stolen the hose. They bring the hose back. Sometimes they don't. They've stolen. They took my fountain one time. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe that. I have a outdoor feeder, and I thought, well, this will be great because I had a cat that, well, it wanted to be mine, and he was crying at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, waking up the whole neighborhood. And, well, I'll put out a timer thing and put food in it, and then it was nice too because like my cats, if I'm going to be gone all day, I can have the timer on it. One of my cats likes to eat late, like around. He doesn't really eat breakfast, but he likes to like brunch. He likes like around 11 o'clock. He likes to eat. I
Mm,
just set it up, and that way, if I'm not around,
yeah, that makes sense.
right,
But
right.
yeah,
So I did this, and I swear to you, it wasn't a week. And one night, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, I hear this bang, 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 bang. What's that? You know? So I get up and I go to where the thing is, and there's a little baby raccoon. It is a baby raccoon. And he's apparently thought that was his food source, and it's not working for whatever reason. It's probably out of food. And he's sitting there banging on it, and he thinks he's gonna steal my feeder away. So no, they're not. There's nothing cuddly and
no, they're not always friendly because I actually had a pet raccoon. I think I brought this up on your show before that we had for a while when I was a youngster, and then it disappeared because of the call of the wild. So it actually wanted to go raise a raccoon family, kind of like your raccoon family. So it left. I don't remember which gender it was, but it definitely disappeared. And when we looked outside, we found that it had kidnapped some of mom's jewelry and other things as well. So it was definitely doing what raccoons do, and it lived up to its name because the raccoon that
abandoned.
was a part of the family was Bandit. That was the name of the raccoon. So it lived up to its name that we gave it and all along those lines. So it was definitely a true bandit in that sense of the word. So yeah, they can't always be nice and everything. But I was just imagining them. And ironically, as I think I told you before, mom has been doing some repair work on her swimming pool, and it looks like that's going well because it's like a little minor leak, but she's getting that fixed. I think she's getting it. If she hasn't gotten fixed, it's getting fixed soon and everything. So that was one of those home repairs that I know you talk about a lot on this show and everything. So she's glad to get that done so that the nephews can go, speaking of frolicking, they can go frolic in the water and not worry about it being torn or anything, or the dog accidentally jumping in there and tearing the lining or some of the other things that she's been concerned about in that space. But it's interesting because you mentioned ponds really quickly, and I know that my one of my cousins got the pond property in. It was one of my grandparents' home properties because it's now gone to the third generation, which is my cousin John. And I think he's actually going to try to expand the pond. So it looks like he's going to expand the pond and maybe even put some fish in the pond. So it might actually be more usable because it's been unused, I think, for a while. But it looks like he's doing some correction work on it. So it'll be interesting to see how that is all done and whether people start going out there and going fishing in the pond.
Oh, they want to go fishing in the pond. Okay, because I was going to tell you, they have some nets that you can put over the pond.
Mm,
That way the raccoons can't get at it. So
mm,
you stretch the net across. I've also seen it with done with steel, which I don't like. I've seen like a really thin steel mesh. That
mm,
one's not so bad, but you lay that out over the pool, and that way the raccoons can't come in and get the fish.
mm,
So you've got it's very expensive koi fish. You
mm,
do not want those like expensive. I don't know, they was real expensive, 300, 400, 800. You know
mm,
how big it is. Um, those
mm.
can get really big. So you don't want the raccoon to come. That's a very expensive dinner for raccoon. And
Yeah, that would be very expensive. You mentioned something else during your talk earlier, and I was curious about it because right now today is actually relatively mild. It might be in the low 90s, but there were several days where we were pushing near 100, and we might be pushing near 100 again and everything. And you talked about how that what drew people to want to go to Pasadena and the Rose Bowl and even Southern Cal. And yes, I can tell you that. Matter of fact, I'm back at the Cultural Center today, and this is the first time I've been back since last Monday. And part of that was, I think, all of Tuesday, all of Wednesday. I did go out a little bit to go to the corner store on yesterday, but this is my first time being out, and I've been out a couple of times because I also went to, with one of the co-founders of Pod TV to a restaurant earlier today and everything. But this is the first time since Monday that I've been out as long as I've been out because it's been hot. So I've been actually staying in my AC and my fan and all along those lines because it's been hot. So I don't know what you think, but I think sometimes when it gets hot, it's better just to stay in the house, or if you can, because I was teasing I ordered DoorDash way too much, and I was teasing one of my DoorDash deliverers because it was on one of them hot days, and I was going like, I bet you when you go off, you're gonna find a pool, and he was like, you got it. I'm heading right to the pool as soon as I get off and everything. So definitely has been some hot weather here and I won't even say this in the deep south because that would be more like Alabama, Mississippi, but what is considered more of like the middle south, North Carolina, Virginia, and all along those lines. But it's still been all I can say is hot. Sizzling might even be a good word, but it's definitely been torturesome and all along those lines.
I have several friends in Arizona, and it's 110.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's 110. They get up to 120 regularly during the summer. And I'm like, how do you deal with that? And they're like, well, you go from in your house to in your car to work and to the store, and the only part that's really bad is getting from one to the other, and everything's air conditioned. And I'm like, I don't know. It's that just seems. It's amazing to me. You think about the people coming across the country, and it's July. It's Arizona. It's 120 degrees. What made them stop and say this is a good place to stop? I mean, maybe the horse died or the wagon wheel broke or something. I don't know, but there's a bunch of cities here that grew up, and it wasn't just because the horse died. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but maybe you're used to that because, as you know, just because I told you this, I not saying that I play, but I follow basketball, and I did see because I follow my alma mater that one of the players is actually going back to his home state because he grew up in that environment. He grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, so he's probably used to that kind of heat. So Tyler Kolek, who is our guard, is going to New York, and he's from Rhode Island. So in some ways, he's going back home too. Not quite all the way home, but also literally was born, I think born and raised in Phoenix, and he was drafted by the Phoenix Suns, which means he's going back to Phoenix. So he's probably more acclimated, even though it's going to be quite interesting because he went from very cold, because Milwaukee is very cold. Well, he came from very hot to very cold, and now he's going back to very hot. So maybe he's acclimated to both by now because he's done both of the extremes in my mind.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's what it is. I mean, every area has its good points and its bad points, right?
No, that is very true. They all have their good points and their bad points. And our bad point, see, I never understood what you just said about that very extreme heat, because to me that's extreme heat and it's extreme dry heat. And to me, and that, maybe it's because of the way I grew up, dry heat is worse than humidity heat. And humidity heat has its own bad functions, but I think I'd rather have the humidity heat than the dry heat that gets up to 120. But neither one of them are overly
in
great.
California, we say it the other way around. It's like, well, but it's a dry heat. A dry heat's easier than and I haven't experienced a lot of or southern summers. Honestly, I was much younger when I did, and I don't remember. But the humidity, it's kind of suffocating. Where the dry heat, like with the humidity, you're like sweating and stuff. But much earlier with the dry heat, I don't know. It seems to be better. But then you know what? I had a friend. She lived in Idaho, and she said something like, "It's a dry snow." And I said, "What? Oh, it's not so bad. It's a dry snow." Whoa, 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 whoa. Snow is wet.
Right.
Like my brain just went, ah! Like snow is wet. What do you mean it's a dry snow?
Well, I mean, but to that point, and to get people maybe on a winter kind of mindset, dry snow. Some people will say that it is easier to drive in dry snow than it is in the kind of like slick icicle kind of snows that we also get here, because the ice is treacherous. I've even broke my arm on ice and everything. So I do know that ice can be a lot of times more treacherous than the snow itself, because a lot of times there's that black ice, and black ice you don't even know it until you hit it and fallen, and in some cases injured yourself. So that is the danger around black ice versus dry ice or dry snow. So that's my guess, is that she's thinking about the snow being packed down, that being kind of like a dry snow, whereas black ice is underneath, and you sometimes don't even know that it's hit you until either you're driving it or you're walking, until you are on your backside, and then it's too late because you're on your backside.
Yeah, California girl here. It's all gibberish to me.
It all makes no sense to California girl. She's sitting there going like,
What? I don't understand. Yeah, no, it's all good. Oh, so
understood. Yeah, I understood. But yeah, I was just curious about the raccoon and how the raccoons were, whether they were friendly raccoons. But it sounds like they were a little bit rude and all along those lines. But yes, they can be very rude critters just in general. It could be worse. A seal could have popped into your house, or some other animal. Like, let's see what else is on the
oh,
west coast.
the
Oh,
skunk.
skunk. A skunk could.
So we had like this pack of skunks, and oh my god, they were so odorous. And I started looking online, like, what do I do about the skunk? And they said they didn't like talk radio. I'm like, okay, so I put on talk radio, and they went away. It was the it was the wildest thing. I just put a little radio out there. I got a little battery powered radio, and put it where where it's smelling most, and they went away. So I don't know if they didn't like the politics of the station that I put it on, or
Well, I have an interesting theory about you about that. Maybe they recognize that a lot of people, whether they're on the left or the right, that they're blowing a lot of smoke and a lot of, I can use another word as well. So they might recognize it as something that they don't want to identify with. And maybe that's why, or maybe it's too close to home. And maybe that's why they were appalled by it, or going there, because they were going like we smell them. Maybe they were smelling the odor of the lies coming out of the different people on the talk radio. So maybe that's what it was.
no, I don't know. But I swear I wasn't getting politics today.
No, no, we're not going there.
My Facebook feed's been blowing up, and I'm like, oh my god, I just can't.
Well,
So,
everybody's trying to figure out, because of that. I'm not just talking to my coworker, and I liked his description. He said it was like two old men fighting for a newspaper in a dumpster. So that is a very true statement.
I I saw a meme. This was. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I want to say it right because it was so funny. And I really think it's time to consult the third party here. But anyway,
Well, I think
um,
it's time. I think it's time for us just to abandon the whole thing and start from scratch.
well, that involves a lot of other stuff that I don't know if we want to do. Okay, electile dysfunction, the inability to be aroused by any of the parties standing for election.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. And that's not politics. I don't want to do that. There's
No, we won't go there. I'll let you get back to your own topic. I would just say, I would just say, lastly, that I think that there's going to be a whole lot of folks sitting on their uh, hands and just grinning and bearing it and not doing anything on the voting polls. I hope I'm wrong, but I think
I
we're going to see a lot
know,
of people sitting down.
yeah, I know several people that said they're not going to vote. And I think I've talked to people on both sides and don't like, quote unquote, their candidate.
But
And um, one of my friends has been very dedicated to one party for many, many decades. And she disliked the candidate so much that she was willing to look at the other side, but then the other side really didn't have somebody she could stand behind there. And so I think what is going to happen is a lot of people are just going to vote by color. They're just going to vote their party
mhm.
because that's what makes sense to them. And you there's all this stuff going. Okay, I'm going to go into my side of politics. So
Well, I did hear a term that I had never heard used before, and I'll get out of politics. I know that's not what you want to talk about, but even when they were talking about the discussion, I had never heard, or maybe I had heard it, but I hadn't heard it used as much as I heard it used last night, even when they were talking to other people. But there's this new term called double haters, which means that they don't like either side and that they can't figure out what to vote because they don't like either one. So they're double haters because they hate both sides of the
Right,
politics.
right. This isn't even a case of I'm going to vote for the lesser of two
Right.
evils. It really isn't. It,
Mm-mm.
but anyway, so here's what's going on energetically too. So everybody loves to hate Trump. I don't care if you do or you don't. But there's a lot of this. We have to hate Trump. That there seems like there's this energy of I must hate Trump. I must hate Trump. I must hate Trump. Okay, fine. You know how much the thing is that all that hate. So I don't care if it's against Trump. I don't care if it's against your sister, your mother, your ex. I don't care who it is that you hate that much. You're hurting yourself.
Right.
So all of these people who, my Facebook feed is full of how horrible Trump is, how horrible Trump is, hate, 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 hate. And the thing is that none of that hate is hurting him
Mm-mm.
because he doesn't know you, he doesn't care, he doesn't, he doesn't.
Right.
But these people, they're tied up in knots, and you can just feel there's like, oh, there's all this energy inside, and that's hurting them. When you hate that much, it physically takes a toll on the body. And it's like, why are you giving this man so much power? You don't want him to have power. Stop giving it to him.
Right.
You know, when you have an argument with two people, like one, you're in the schoolyard, let's say, and you've got little Johnny like, hey, when we were kids, it was your mama. Remember all the your mama stuff? Your mama this, your mama that, da 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 da. And they just destroying insults. So what does the other kid do? They fight back. Da, 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 da. So now you have a fight. But if the other kid doesn't fight back, and he doesn't say anything, and he doesn't throw a punch, there's no fight.
Right.
And so all this energy going towards, and it can go be for Biden too. I don't care who it is you hate, but all this energy going towards hating somebody is literally hurting you. I have a friend hates Trump with a passion. Oh my God, she would vote for a monkey over Trump, and there's a lot of people in that boat. Okay, she would vote for she'd vote for an object instead of Trump. She hates him that much. Now, I don't know, and she's not into the healing stuff, so she's not going to let me go in and see. But she just came down with breast cancer, and for the
Mm-hmm.
last 8 years, 8 years, four almost, yeah. All I've heard about is, well, what if like she said she never slept a night since Trump got in office. She
Well,
spent, she was so worried that what he was going to do, what he was going to do, what he was going to do. Her hate for him was so intense, and then when he wasn't in office, he still didn't rest because, well, what if he runs again? What if he runs again? Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! What if he runs again? The fear inside of her has literally been eating her up for 8 years. Now she's got breast cancer. Now, I can't tell you without doing a full session if that's a direct or not. But when you hate that much, it's gonna take a toll on your body, and it's gonna come out in your body. And
right.
breast cancer, so the breasts have different words. One is distressed. I have to look it up. I have to type you guys up. If anybody cares to call me. But one is distressed and one is unreliable.
Right.
But all these people scared of, oh my God, what's Trump going to do? That hits both of those words, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It hits both of those words.
Yep.
One is the liver and one is the stomach. The liver is how we detoxify our body, and we take literally any poisons out of our body. Our stomach is how we digest life. And gut health has everything to do with your health. That's our second brain. If our gut is not in, we don't have all the right microbes and oh, all the right elements, it can literally make us sick and
Mhm.
make us not think right, right? What is it we always say? Follow your gut. Oh, I don't know what to do. Follow your gut. Your gut can't lie. Your gut's going to lead you in the right direction. So this is why we have breast cancer. Is these two words are connected to two very vital parts of our body, and these are parts of our. And here's the other thing too. What's another phrase we always hear? I can't stomach that. Okay, you've heard this. I can't stomach the thought of Trump winning. You've heard that a million times, right?
Mhm.
Okay, she can't stomach the thought of Trump winning. She can't stomach the thought of Trump running.
Right.
Okay, so this is affecting it's affecting two full organs and her breast. And she told me, she says, I've had this lump on, she says on the right side. I wish I could remember. I think that's the liver, but I think that one's unreliable.
Gotcha.
I'd have to check. But she said she had this lump there for a long time. And so here's the thing that what I'm trying to get at is this hate that's going around can literally cause this level of can cause cancer.
Yep.
All these people, oh, I hate and I've seen it on the other side go the other way too. I hate Biden, I hate Biden, I hate Biden. It's like, but the hate towards Trump, it seems to be different and in a way that I've never seen against any other politician. And and
I guess the only one that I could make a comparison to was there was a time, and some people liked him because he was more likable, even though he came from the world of show business as well. But as I'm a little bit older, I would say that there were some people, because I remember being in college at the time that he was elected, there was a little bit of this similar animosity toward Reagan. So I would say that Reagan might be parallel because there was definitely some similar animosity. Because as a child of the '80s going to college, I do remember some people, and myself included, that were not that thrilled when he got elected and were afraid of what he would do when he came into office, just like there's people that are afraid of what Trump might do in the second term.
yeah,
And that's the parallel that I would make. And I do know that there were people that were, I hate to put it because it sounds almost morbid, especially since he's gone now, but there were people that were, I won't say rooting for his demise in the sense of not being here on the planet, but we're hoping that would incapacitate him enough that he would have to resign when he was shot that one time and everything. So there were some people that had that kind of attitude. I might have even been one of them, as a little bit younger and a little bit stupider at that time as well.
I was little then. I didn't. I mean, I cared about politics even less then. But I do remember them saying stuff like, calling him. They were superstitious. They were working with mediums, and they were worried about he's too old. He's too old. I do remember that,
Right.
but I don't. I don't remember. I was little, so it didn't face me. But my point here really is that level of hate.
Hmm.
It's interesting because the Democratic Party is encouraging it because they want to defeat Trump.
Hmm.
But the backlash of that, the effect it's having on the people team.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have to like him. I'm not saying you have to vote for him. I'm just saying there's no point in giving energy to hating him.
No, well, you don't know this because I hadn't told you, because I hadn't talked to you since this happened. But I have a friend that was actually for lack of a better term, and there might be various reasons that it didn't work out, including the fact that they have multiple children and multiple grown children, and now multiple grandchildren as well. But I had a romantic interest, and that romantic interest actually told me that just the mention of the name of Trump, because she is and I didn't even know this about her, she's a Trump supporter, but she said when she brought up things that were positive about Trump, she literally has almost lost some friends over that as well, because that's kind of that what you're talking about. That
Yeah.
people that have that kind of attitude.
But the thing is, if you hate somebody that much, do you hate them enough to get sick for them? That's a big question. That we have this whole phrase of, I would die for you. You ask, a parent, oh, I'd die for my kids, right? Any parent will do that. But will you live for them? So this is a lot of, I've seen a lot of exercise, nutrition people put out there. It's like, oh, I'd die for my kids. I'm going to go work hard. I'm going to go do this. Okay, but will you live for them? Will you actually do the exercise? Will you actually eat the right foods? Will you actually take care of yourself?
Yeah.
You get to live to see your grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
Here's
Yeah.
my thing on this whole political thing, and there, I talked to my friend last night. I had to tell her I can't do this anymore. I just can't hear anymore.
Yes.
It wasn't a side issue. It was just I can't hear the hate anymore.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are in that mindset and everything. Speaking of that, and before we close, I've got to just bring it down just a little bit on the political front because I got another animal that might join your swimming pool and everything. Some people don't like this animal. Some people do like this animal. But I'm gonna bring up their picture, and I want to know if they appeared in your backyard because I do know that while they are seen as cute, not as cute as otters, because I think otters are cuter. But while they are seen as cute, they are in both the West Coast and the East Coast, and all of
Oh,
those.
get
So I
'em.
just want to know if there have been any foxes that have appeared in your swimming pool because there we have the very cute fox and the wolf that is out there. It's actually a wolf and all along those lines. So are there any wolves out there? Because apparently there's attacks on these wolves and everything. So I just wonder, are y'all getting any wolves and trying to pop into your swimming pool as
Not
well?
that I know of. Now we do have, what are they called? They're not wolves. Same family. Um,
Mountain lions?
we did have a mountain lion. There was a mountain lion that was under in the house across the street from me. Not, it was under the house. It wasn't. So that was kind of scary. It was sick and it found a cool place to be. But
Or
what are they called? They're like
coyotes?
coyotes. Yes. So we do have coyotes. I have seen coyotes, and I had a deer in my front yard one time.
Mhm.
It had come down too far, and the it's not the Humane Society, it's the Forestry Services.
Mhm.
They gave it a tranquilizer shot. And it was very strange. It took a really long time for the tranquilizer to work. It was like I think it was like an hour. It was sitting in my yard, and
It's
they had shot. I think they had shot it before then because it was sitting in my yard, and then
depending on the size of the animal, it can take some time because I know that they've used tranquilizers on bears because we do have bears here in North Carolina. And even when I was in Florida, and this was decades ago, there was a manatee that was in somebody's backyard, and I think that they may have tranquilized it in order to get it back in the ocean. So I'm guessing, depending on the size and the weight of the animal, may depend on how long it takes for the tranquilizer to take effect. Because I know even on one of my other shows, I had somebody in Florida that was doing alligator wrangling, and I know that some of those alligators take a while as well. So I think it has to do with the size, because while we can shoot them with the tranquilizers, I think it takes a while to go through their system, just like it would take the wild medicine to go through our system.
well, not that I have a lot of experience with tranquilizers.
Me neither.
But like when I had to put my cat down, she couldn't walk anymore, and I just couldn't bear that. So she was days away from death anyway. But I just was like when she couldn't walk, I said, okay, we just gotta let her go, and that happened very quickly. And when they put it under for surgery, I mean that's a form of tranquilization. That happens very fast. That's
Yes.
so I just thought it was really interesting that it was a good hour before the thing, quote unquote, went to sleep. And then they put it in this box in the truck. And I was like, there was this gut inside me that said they actually killed the deer. And then a friend in Texas who she saves all kinds of animals. Like they find her, they know that she's an animal mom.
Neither.
She's going to take care of them. So I asked her about it, and she said it probably did actually kill the deer because what the deer seem to be very fragile, and
Mhm.
when the tranquilizer wears off, it wears off in a way that ends up harming them, and then they end up dying very slowly. So it's actually that's what she said. So I don't know what kind of deer do you guys have? Does that seem true for you?
And from what I remember, I think it did take a while, but I'm trying to remember because, and you're right, depending on how you tranquilize them and what the purpose is. Because I think that they are giving them something that might be more quicker acting if they're trying to, put them to sleep, as the veterinarians like to use that term and everything, which means that they're euthanizing them and all in that space. That's just a more diplomatic way of putting it and everything. But I'm not sure. But as you were talking, I was just thinking, I've not seen my buddies lately. But then again, I've not. It's been hot, so I haven't been outside that much either. But I used to see, as I told you before, at least last year, and definitely I think I've seen them once this year. But the gardens that are in my apartment complex, I would usually see the rabbits jumping around, the little rabbits, and I think I saw one maybe about a week or two ago jumping across the street, trying to decide if it could make the trip across the street before the cars came and all along the lines, and it did make it, but I don't remember seeing it, and that was a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know where the rabbits are going. It is, like I said, it's 100 degrees outside. So maybe they found a nice little air conditioned room as well, or a swimming pool, and are hiding out of the heat. So they might have been like, it's too hot out here. We're not trying to get any food because it's 105 degrees outside. So we're going to deal with the our little air conditioned swimming pool house that we stumbled across, and we'll come back out when it's a little bit cooler. But maybe that's what they're doing.
I don't know.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
see a lot of rabbits. That's one that I don't see very much of, but we do get possums. And I have a bunch of cats, so I don't see any little four-legged long-tailed critters.
Do the possums live up to, well, two things? Do the possums live up to their nickname, and do they play dead? And also, do you run across? Because I know Mom has run across some, and she's not happy when she's seen them. But we also have the Slytherin creatures that like to come out sometimes in the summer as well. And I know that Mom ran across one and doing
What kind
the
of
Slytherin
Oh, yeah, I
snake.
don't see those. I don't see those very often. I don't. I get lizards, but I
Okay.
haven't seen any snakes.
You haven't seen any snakes, and I know Mom ran across one. And the old saying is that if you find one, then there's probably two or three that are lingering by because they probably come as a family and everything. So, but I do know she found one, and I think she took care of that one. But yeah, but to my original question, did the possum play possum? Because that's the nickname. Is that possums will sometimes play possum? So did the possum actually play possum?
Well, I don't. I have not seen that. That
Got
doesn't mean they don't, but I have not seen that. So, um, I've actually fed the possum because they come up on my porch. I have a little called a vestibule, but my back door has it's a covered porch. It's only as wide as the door, so it's not like a porch. It's a little vestibule, and so um, I did. It was living underneath the steps. There was one that was living underneath the steps for a while, and I would leave out food for my cats, and then I'd hear because I've got an outdoor cat too, so I'll leave him food sometimes, and then 11 o'clock, I hear this bowl banging around. What's that? Oh, it's a possum. So I have fed the possum. I mean,
well, speaking of feeding the possum,
I
speaking
mean,
of feeding.
they're kind of cute.
They can be kind of cute. But speaking of feeding the possums, one of the things, even here in North Carolina, and then we're going to get to Kendu very shortly and everything, is how often some of the animals that you want to feed, and they can look very cute, they can also be very dangerous. Because I've heard people say that about raccoons. I've definitely heard people say that, and I've not seen them in probably about a month about the geese because we have geese here, and sometimes the geese can be a little ferocious, even though they might look cute as birds and everything, but they can also be a little bit on the
Well,
ferocious side.
my sister, when she was about 3 years old, and she had blonde hair back then, really blonde hair, and we were somewhere, and there were geese, and they started chasing after her, and they were after her big time. She was scared, and it was a very my mother told that story for years about the geese. The geese.
The geese can be dangerous, and I have a similar story because uh, I think I told you the story where my dad, I mean not dad, mom and her sisters were trying to corral a cow. I think it was a cow or a bull to be exact. When granddad was living, and they were using the truck to try to corral it. And at some point, the cow did not want to cooperate and just kind of like resisted. I don't think it ever stormed them. And I think they gave a look at my granddad like, well, if you want to come and get this bull, why don't you come and get it? Because we're not having much luck in terms of getting it into the truck. But I think they did eventually get it into the truck and managed to get it to, I want to say it was going to auction and everything. But yeah, some of those animals can be quite interesting because even here at the Hayti Center, I haven't seen them recently, but then again, I've not worked that many nights. But there are bats that come here because there is a chimney, and in addition to the chimney, there is the steeple area as well. And sometimes if you look, you will see them because they look like little small sparrows, but then you realize there's actually a flock. When I say a flock, I mean it's a big flock of bats because it can be hundreds of them up there and everything. You're going like, whoa, that's a whole lot of bats.
We have a lot of parrots.
Right.
Legend has it that there was a bird store in Pasadena, and there was a fire, and the man couldn't save them all, so he just opened up all their cages, and the flocks just keep growing and growing, and they are community animals, and so they'll build a flock and then another flock, and so now these flocks go as far as like 20 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
That started from this. And I've heard different versions. I heard when it was an exotic animal place. I heard when it was just a bird place, or he just sold parrots. And then I heard some, yeah. But that's the legend, is that that's where the parrots come from. And years ago, we had really like hurricane style winds. It wasn't a hurricane, but really, really incredibly, windstorm that we're not really used to here. On the East Coast, it's probably not as big a deal. But for us, it was something new. And there were trees falling down, and there was a lot of stuff. People's yards were all messed up. Some fences fell. And there was a tree that was really large on the end of my street, and one of the branches fell off of it and actually hit a car on the other side of the road. I don't know what happened to the car. I don't know if anybody was in it, but the car when I saw it, it was all underneath the tree. So I assume nobody was in it. I assume it was parked. But there's a tree next to it, and the tree was so green. I'd never seen that tree so green. And it had so many, it looked like it had just a ton of leaves on it. And I'm like, but we just had this huge windstorm, and that didn't make any sense. But then I looked at it a little bit closer. That tree was covered in parrots. There must have been 1,000 parrots at least in this tree. And it was really incredible. Somewhere I've got a picture of it.
I'll have to get the picture of that tree with that parrot, because there's some place, it might even be in the Middle East, but there was some place that had a bunch of birds that was part of their tradition, because I think they were feeding the birds. I can't remember if it was eagles or what it was, but I just remember that it was part of their, like you were saying, legend, and they were trying to figure out where the birds came from. And what I don't remember, because it was like on a news special on one of the networks, and I don't remember whether it was in Europe, like maybe Spain or something like that, or whether it was in the Middle East. But I do remember going like, oh, that's a whole lot of birds, and they were feeding the birds and all along those lines. So there are some of these things that they are quite interesting, and interested in how they get there and everything. Because like I said, it was somebody that was kind of like what they did as their hobby, for lack of a better term, was taking care of these birds, because they were not, I don't think they were native to that area.
I don't know.
I don't know either, and I don't remember the story other than I might have been on 60 Minutes or CBS This Morning or one of those shows. But you've had a good discussion and all along those lines, and I think it's time for us to have some.
Today.
No, that's okay. It was still a good conversation, and it was about energy, and energy is important, particularly when it's 105 degrees, and that's only like a feel-like temperature. And today was much milder. I think we were 94, and I think we even got a little bit of rain yesterday, so hopefully we'll get a little bit more. But there will be some more hot days, because we did have some hot days throughout the month of June, and usually we don't get this till July or August, so it came a little bit earlier. But there's some people out there that think
weird. we don't get any rain during summer. Like there's zero rain in the summer,
Right.
and I mean I get it, but at the same time it's a disconnect. It's like it rains in the summer, yeah. And I
Yeah,
know that's a big part of where you live. You guys get a lot of rain, and there is a lot of
yeah, and if we don't get rain, then we run into problems because if we don't get rain, then it gets dry, and if it gets dry, then you run the danger of fires and all on those. I know y'all have been dealing with fires, but that's why when we don't get rain in the south, particularly around this area, then there's warnings about people being cautious. You know how they handle their fires and how they handle other things, so that you don't get those widespread fires. Because the fear is that if the ground, the trees and everything get too dry, that it's too easy to kindle a fire and all along those lines. So I do know that y'all have the similar situation with the forest fires in like California and Arizona,
well,
Washington, places like that.
unfortunately, some of the forest fires are because we've got homeless people living
Right.
in wooded areas, and you know, they park goes in the wrong place, and it sucks.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true with that whole homeless situation. That
Can be something as simple as somebody throwing a cigarette out the window. Now, when I was a kid, that was a big deal, and I remember Smokey Bear. But now people don't. I don't think people smoke like they did back then.
you know,
And so I'm not seeing those ads. But when I was a kid, that was a big deal. We had Smokey the Bear, and it was, you're driving along the mountain highway, and oh, you throw your cigarette out the window, and next thing you know, everything's blank. So I don't think that's as much. I mean,
yeah, 'cause
it can happen, and I'm sure it probably does. But we had a big fire a few years ago. It was during COVID,
mhm,
and they said it started because of something that went astray at um, homeless encampment.
yeah, I can I can see that. But as you say that, you're right. I haven't seen that many. I mean, I see them because I'm a member of Ad Council, so I sometimes will even download them for the network. So I know Smokey the Bear exists, and I know that what is it, Hootie the Owl or Hoot the Owl? But I haven't seen that much on regular network TV, even when I'm watching some of what I call the rerun channels like Eon and other ones. But you're right, I have not seen as much as I remember as a kid, and part of that because you were as a
Why Smokey the Bear? You never now. If you go into the forest areas here, you will see some signs on Smokey the Bear, but you're already there. But like, I don't know if the kids get Smokey the Bear in school anymore, but um, you don't see the ads for Smokey the Bear anymore.
no, you're right. I haven't seen Smokey the Bear, and I haven't seen the other one that I just mentioned. And I can't
I
remember the
don't know
full.
Hoot the Owl. I don't know
Huh?
Hoot the Owl. I don't know Hoot the Owl.
Yeah, I think it's Hoot the Owl or Hootie the Owl, but it was similar to Smokey the Bear. It's a um like a something that's used for conservation purpose ads and everything. But I do remember, and I think his name was, and what I don't remember, I'm actually looking it up, is if it's Hootie the Owl or Hoot the Owl. But I did know that it was one that
Um,
I thought I had heard sometime back in the day and everything. But maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going to double check it and maybe I'll get back to that on the next show. But I do remember Hoot the Owl being something that was used in that whole conversation around environmentalism and things along those lines. But and I thought his name was Hoot the Owl, but maybe it's Hootie the Owl. But who knows? I'll figure it out. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm looking it up because I know. Oh well, I'll figure it out later. Maybe it's Woodsy the Owl.
oh, that sounds familiar.
That and I think maybe it's Woodsy the Owl because I just looked it up. It says Woodsy the Owl was created in 1970 as part of the second U.S. environmental movement. During this phase of growing environmental awareness, Smokey the Bear, which has existed since 1944, was increasingly relied on for environmental education. The U.S. Forest Service was concerned that the bear, with the motto of forest fire prevention, could be misused through excessive use. So they commissioned the development of a new protagonist and a messenger, and that was the one that I was thinking about, which is Woodsy now. Maybe I just call
I
him.
don't think Woodsy was as popular as Smokey.
I don't. I think you're. I don't think Woodsy was as popular.
They thought that Smokey the Bear was gonna how how
The U.S. Forest Service was concerned that the bear with the motto of forest fire prevention could be misused through excessive use. So I guess they were afraid that it would
That
be
it would be overdone.
overdone, right? Kind of
Yeah.
like what, and I can see that. Kind of like some people feel that what's the Kellogg commercial? Tony the Tiger had gotten. So some of them they feel that it's overdone and that it loses its impact.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and I can see that too. But and with any of them, whether it's Smokey or whether it's Lucky Charms or whether it's Tony the Tiger or any of those, that they can lose their impact if you constantly see them all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I can see that. So you ready for some Kindle? And we'll get on out of here. But so I thought it was
I,
a good conversation. I know you felt you were rambling, but it still was about energy and about other stuff. So I still said it was another great show. And by the way, when I met with Nick, we were looking at some of the viewership, and some of these shows actually had good viewership because sometimes the viewership is built up during the course of weeks and everything. So I think that there was at least a few of these that had multiple viewers and all along those lines. Because like I said, they're re-aired, they're reshown, and I think there was a couple of these color whisperers that might have been in the hundreds of views and all along those lines. So we were just looking at some of the numbers, and I do know that there were some shows that had some hundreds, if not teens, of views. And like I said, they are shown both during the time we were watching, but also several times during the course of the week and even months and years ahead and everything. So sometimes you might start with like a very little viewership, and then people be like, "Wow, that was an interesting conversation. Let me tell my friends about it," and go back and build up the viewership and all along those lines. So I do know that there was a couple of them that when I've gone back, I'm going like, "Hey, her viewership is up on this amount of numbers or this amount of numbers." So
well, it'd be interesting if you can tell me like what are the ones that are higher, and then I can create content more towards that. I mean, like today we're going to talk about outdoor stuff, and then we kind of got derailed a little bit, and it ended up being a timely conversation. So, and it's all about energy, like it's and going back to that a little bit, it's not easy, if you've got that family member or whatever, it's like, but they did, but they did, but they did, but they did, but they did. It's like, I don't care what they did. You
right,
don't you don't have to give it energy. It's
right,
not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do. They probably deserve your hate. I'm not saying they don't, but to give it energy, you're hurting yourself more
right.
than you're hurting them.
Well, not only that, but I agree with what a friend of mine told me recently, and all along those lines, which is that, um, so to your point, yeah, you might be giving them excess energy and everything, but the other thing that is going on is that sometimes you're also giving energy to things that probably aren't all that possible, and all along those lines. Because I know a lot of people that will swear up and down that, and I've heard it all the time, and very few people do it, but then they give the energy to the conversation. Because how many people, and I've even been guilty of it, have said that if so and so wins, that they're going to move out of the country or move this place or that place, and then knowing good and well that either because of family, which is a lot of times the reason that we stay where we're
Yeah,
at,
that
or
too.
because of jobs, or because of a number of other things, that you're not really going to run away no matter who may come into office,
How
whether
many
it's
stars when Trump was running the first time said, "Oh, if he wins, I'm gonna leave,"
right.
and they're all still here.
Exactly.
And here's the thing. I mean, it's 4 years. It's four
Right.
years. Our system was set up with the checks and balances.
Right.
No one party had too much power.
Right.
And
Agreed.
I did see some people like there's this year 20 Project 25 agenda, which looks absolutely horrible. But I
Yeah.
remember when Obama was running, they were saying some, I don't know, I didn't look at all the things on the Project 25. Okay. I admittedly, politics is not my game,
Right.
but I do remember when Obama was running, people were saying a lot of really bad stuff about what he was doing. Now it's a part. I took the middle. I'm not like, oh, this party is bad and this party is good. They're both crooks. But
Yeah. Well,
but back then there was a lot of people who were saying a lot of really bad stuff about Obama. Now the Democrats who are now really pissed at Trump right now, they don't remember that at all
right.
because they thought Obama was God here come to save them. Well, let's face it, there's no man that's going to save us. The only man that's going to save us is ourselves, and the only God that's going to save us is God. Like
Right.
there's no like if the only man God we gotta believe in is our own self and how much power we have because we forget.
No, no,
So
definitely, I agree with you on that. And that's all we can do is do that kind of thing of believing in ourselves and believing in what we can literally change and not necessarily what we can't change, because you can't dictate what other people's attitudes are going to be, and you can only do what you can do in your space and everything. So that I would agree with.
more joy we create, the more love we create, the more we change our world. It has a ripple effect. You
Right.
know, you're in the grocery store and there's somebody they got, maybe they can't walk, they're in a wheelchair, they got little kids in tow, whatever reason, you hold the door open for them and you
Right.
smile. And you changed a life in that moment.
Hmm.
And it's something very simple. And this is how we change the world is through these little acts of kindness become bigger acts of kindness. And that's what it's about. And that's why, getting into this fear contracts us. I don't care
Right.
what you're afraid of. Getting into fear contracts us and prevents us from actually enjoying life. So the
Right.
more we can spread love, the more we can spread joy. This is the most powerful thing.
Hmm.
That's how we dissipate fear.
Right.
That's how we dissipate fear. COVID, it was scary as hell because what they do? They isolated us.
Hmm.
Fear did that create by isolating us.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, I'm getting on a pedestal. It's past time. But my point is that how we change the world is how can we make our day better? How many people can we touch in a day? And how can we make their world a little bit better? Even if it's as simple as, hey, I care about you.
Right.
Smile, pick up a friend, call a friend. These little things have bigger ripples.
Yep, and I agree with you on that. Speaking of bigger ripples, I definitely just wanted to give a quick shout out to two legends. One that celebrated a birthday, the other that unfortunately passed away, and they come from the African American community. But God rest Bill Cobb, who was an amazing actor, and all along those lines. I think he was even on the Cosby Show and all in that space, at least in one of his various roles and everything. But he just recently passed away at the age of 90. So he actually lived to a very long life and all in that space. And like I said, he was in a number of things, including playing Walter in the brother from another planet, and also being having the role of Louisiana Slim in the Hitter. And like I said, he was in a number
Picture?
of others. I do have a picture. I'm going to bring up Mr. Kyle's picture, and all along those lines, and I'll bring up the picture of the other person that I was going to reference as well, because he is one that is the voice that many of us know, and he hasn't passed away. He's actually lived and is still living and everything. But I'm bring up a picture of Mr. Cobb so that folks can see who I am referring to, and all along those lines, and all in that space. But that is a picture of Mr. Cobb and everything along those lines. So, like I said, he just
Is that
recently passed.
Elvis? What
Say
was
what?
there was a show when we were kids. And this he would it was on like Saturday mornings or Sunday mornings, and it was like a grandpa talking to kids. Do you remember?
Well, he was in 1995. He was in Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
1970s. It was there was a show. Oh, what was it called? He was like everybody's grandpa, and he'd just say, "Come now, child, sit on my knee, and I'm gonna tell you a story." And it was
Well,
is that
there was a short film called A Boy and a Bow, like a boa constrictor or the bow snake. He was in that in 1975. In 1977, he played Mr. Jones in Grease Lightning, and he also played the bartender in Hero Ain't Nothing But a Sandwich, and he was also the bartender in Trading Places, and he was the man in the lunchroom in Silkwood. So he's been in a number of films, and he was also in the Cotton Club as well. So I'm trying to think of which one you're talking about. These were from his movies, but I'm going down to the TV listings as well, because sometimes they will separate them in terms of TV versus other things. So he's definitely had a long TV career as well. So let me get to the TV shows if I can find what you're talking about. Because in 1975 he was in the First Lady's Diaries, Rachel Jackson, and he was on Good Times as well, and he was also on 2 episodes of Baby I'm Back as
Yeah,
the
he
miniseries King.
looks familiar.
Yep. Oh, and he was on Sesame Street. He played Lee on Sesame Street in episode 17. Looks like episode 17 and 30, and he was on Spencer for Hire and Katie and Allie. So yeah, he was on a number of shows as well. So yeah, he was definitely out there. Like I said, he just passed away at the age of 90. The one that is still living and still with us and everything. But this one, I know you will know because he just turned the whopping age of 93, and all along those lines and everything. Because like I said, Bill Cobb, William Wilbert Francesco Cobbs is his full name, just passed away actually in your neck of the woods in Riverside, California, and June 25th of this year. So earlier this week and everything. But James Earl Jones, who is the voice of Darth Vader, just turned 93. So he's still with us and still living as he just turned 93 and is still, well, he's been 92 for a while because his birthday won't come up till January. So he'll be turning 90. What does that be? 94 in January of this year. But he is 93 and is still very much active and all along those lines. So a lot of people know James Earl Jones as the voice of Darth Vader. So see if I can bring up a picture of James Earl Jones, and then we'll get ready to get on out of here. But yeah, anybody that knows James Earl Jones knows that he is still out there, still doing amazing things and all along those lines. But yes, he is still with us and still out there doing amazing things and all in that space. So I'm trying to see if I can get us a picture really quickly of none other than James Earl Jones. Oh, she just disappeared.
Did you say he died?
He did not die. James Earl Jones is still with us. I was just
But it
saying he's
was
still.
his birthday?
I thought it was his birthday. But it might be the anniversary of his career. But he's still out there. But I did see him come across my feed and everything, and all along those lines. Because his birthday is not till January, but everything in that space. But there's Mr. James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader.
So yeah, when I was a kid, there was this show that we watched on the weekend, and it was he looked a bit like the Cobbs guy.
It
And he
probably was, 'cause like I said, he was involved in a number of things. I'm just trying because I mean he's got a a discography that is ridiculous. The amount of things that he's been on, and some of them were way back in the 70s and everything. Because even when I go down
might
to
have
the
been a '60s show, but I mean, I watched it in the '70s, and it was like you'd see his face up close, and you'd say, it wasn't, a la Romper Room, but it wasn't Romper Room. He would, so here in California, we had this guy, and he would do Popeye. I don't know,
Mhm.
Popeye, and there was like the Family Film Festival, so he would do stuff. There was a Popeye hour, and he would draw cartoons. He would teach you how to draw in between the cartoons, and then he'd have little tidbits about it. And then he also did the Family Film Festival, and so he would give you tidbits about the movies, and it might be stuff like the Three Stooges and Snow White, Robin Hood, the old black and white Robin Hood. It would be stuff like that, stuff that everybody can see. And so this guy, he had the beard like that. I mean, God, it's been, oh, I don't even want to think how long it's been since I've seen this. But he he would get close to the camera, and he would tell stories. And then there was some learning involved, like maybe it was like Big Blue Marble or something. He might do something, but it wasn't. They didn't do like the factory tours, but there was some learning involved. All I can remember right now is like I see his face, and he would say goodbye. They'd go really close into his face, and it was just like he was everybody's grandpa.
I'll do some research, but they do
Relate
say that
to it.
he was in like some 200 films and television shows. So he was definitely a well-known actor with the amount of things that he has done and everything. So definitely he was up there, and including being a theater actor in the movie called Ride the Black Horse, and definitely has got a wide range of things that he has done. So I'm trying to figure out which one that would be, but I'll do some research and looking around, and we'll see if we can figure out what that might have been because it's not coming to me at the time. Not saying that it's not wasn't there and it wasn't him, but definitely that does quite possible because, like I said, I do know he was on a couple of episodes of Sesame Street and a number of other things, but he was a
Yeah,
well-known actor that had been out there forever and everything. So
yeah. Well, he looks. Yeah, I mean, certainly I've seen him, and that's what I think he was in this show. But I can't remember. Like I was little, really little. God, it's
yeah,
been 50 years. So, but um, it was a fun show.
we'll have to do some research and try to figure out what it was. Because, like I said,
I'll
they
have
talked about
to remember.
exactly. Yeah. Apparently, he was opposite Dabney Coleman in '87 on some ABC sitcom called The Slap Maxwell Story, which I do not remember that at all. But
That was
yeah,
my
he's definitely
TV show.
been in a variety of things. But I'll do some research in everything. And he was also played Arthur Chaney in the family-friendly movie Air Bud about a golden retriever who plays on a high school basketball team. So he was on a number of things, including apparently Northern Exposure, of the first season of the Gregory Hines show, as well as the Wyan Brothers, ER, and The Sopranos. So definitely, like, he's been on so much stuff, including playing Master Tinker in 2013 in the cinematic adaptation of Oz the Great and the Powerful, based on L. Frank Baum's Oz books and everything. So, like I said, he had a very rich career. So, I'll just have to do some research to figure out what the children's show is, or maybe you'll talk to some of your folks and they'll figure it out for you. But it'll be interesting
It
to
might have been
see.
an LA thing, like this Popeye thing and Family Film Festival. That was an
Right.
LA thing.
And
So
it could have been another thing.
it might have been an LA thing too. So,
Yeah.
but it still should have been on. I mean, if you put in Family Film Festival, I think you're going to get this other guy.
Okay. Well, let me see. Bill Cobbs. You said Family Film Festival?
No, no, he wasn't the Family Film Festival. Um, I can't remember the name of his show. It was something like it's Sam. That's not what it was, but I'm hearing the name Sam, and I don't know what it's related to. But
Hmm. Now you've got me curious, and we'll do some more research and try to figure out what it was and everything and all along those lines. Because, like I said, it was in so much stuff. But I'll try to do some more research and see if we can't figure out what it was. Maybe the next time that we're on and everything. But yeah, I have still trying to figure it out. But I'm sure we'll figure it out at some point or another. But
talk
on that
about
note,
relating content. A couple
yep,
of people searching their brains for something they can't. Yeah, okay. So you can Google search it yourself. Maybe you'll find it. Let us know.
exactly. Let us know if you figured it out.
If you lived in
Anybody
the 70s, if you were a kid in the 70s and you know what the show is, please let us know. Thank you.
Speaking of letting people know, and as we get ready to go out with Kendu Spices, and we went a little bit over and everything, um, we are still looking for questions. I think that sometime in the near future, not next week and maybe not the week after, but sometime in the near future, we'll do another one of our episodes where we will take questions. So if you've got things that you are concerned about it or about your own house or your own interior designing, you can send them to Jeanette or you can send them to me, and definitely we will try to get to them. So we're looking for content for questions that you may have. It may be something as simple as I just found a stained glass at the business that I work at, and I want to know how I can incorporate it into my house and everything. Or maybe you want, or maybe you've got a piano and you're trying to figure out how to incorporate that into your house. So that's just some kind of things that popped into my head based on the building I'm in right now and everything. But any questions that you have, I think that Jeanette can handle anything, including can I really put a swimming pool in the middle of my house? So it's like I don't think anybody really wants to do that, but anything is possible. She can ask you whether it can be done or not.
Have you seen the pool at Hearst Castle? Have you seen pictures? They have an indoor pool in the it's kind of in the basement, I guess. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people put pools in their house.
Okay.
They're not typical houses like maybe you or I have. They're mansions.
Right.
Aaron Spelling had his own bowling alley. He had a pool. He had a golf course. Had everything in his house.
No, and I have seen people do that. I know there's I don't know about a swimming pool in the house, but I do know people that have had TV sets and movie rooms. Shucks, my brother has like basically a movie room, and even mom's ex boyfriend until he passed away and everything. I remember him having a space that was kind of like a lack of a better term, almost like a man's cave because it had like the big TV sets and other things that were in there and everything, including like some sporting things. Because if I remember correctly, there might have been like a big pool hall and maybe even some other games. I don't think that I saw foosball, which is kind of like the soccer version, or air hockey, but I could be wrong. They could have been there, but I do remember there were some games in that space in addition to the big TVs. But on that note, we're getting ready to get out with Kendu Spices. This was a fun conversation, even if we are all over the place, but it was still a fun conversation. So we're going to hit some Kendu Spice, and we'll be back on next Friday. So I'll definitely send her the link quicker than I did this time, and that was my fault. So definitely I'll make sure to be a little bit greater on the game and everything. But right now, let's go on out with some Kendu Spice.
You know how people love to enjoy food and don't understand how to flavor their food or how to replicate a meal? They're interested in supplements but don't know where to begin? Well, what I do is I take the guesswork out of enjoying flavor and wellness with my flavorful spice blends so that they can create delicious meals with healing benefits. Kendu Spice was created to help cooks at any level enjoy healing through food. Every spice blend was designed to give added health benefits of natural herbs. Every blend is complete. There's no need to add any additional spice for a delicious meal. Saving you time and money while adding supplements to your meals can be both tasty and fun. My earliest memories in the kitchen began with my father, Kenny Kendu Bond, so it was fitting that I would name this line after him. I have always looked to natural remedies to supplement the body, and I found myself hiding herbs and minerals in foods for my family. That's when it hit me. Everyone needs Kendu Spice. Everyone should be having this. It's an exclusive brand for cooks at any level who want to create flavorful dishes with healing benefits that can satisfy the body and soul. Add a little spice to your life. Give Kendu Spice a try.